Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Rants podcast, season 4. I'm your host, Bash Marino. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you're watching or listening to the podcast. Please follow the podcast on all social media platforms, on especially on Instagram at the Social Work Rants podcast. That's all one word. On Twitter at Social Work Rants. Hit the like button on Facebook, Meta at type in the Social Work Rants podcast. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that red, beautiful red subscribe button. And hit the subscribe button. However you're watching and listen to the podcast, thank you for listening, watching, supporting, and all that good stuff. My guest at this time is a social worker in the beautiful state of South Carolina. My second guest from the lovely state, Alexis De La Cruz, was a school social worker and definitely like to ask a lot of questions based on her experience this past year, what she's seeing in the schools this year, and as the school year thankfully winds down. I'm counting down the days to, at least for my school district. They changed the days. They added a couple more days, but
Oh, wow.
June 21st, wherever that is, either the 17th, 21st, whatever that day is, like I'm counting down. So, Alexis, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. How are you?
Good, good. And thank you for coming on. We able to the beauty of being patient and and try to be consistent and all that good stuff where life throws curveballs and stuff like that. So I'm glad we're able to connect and have you on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, so let our viewers and listeners know, let everybody know who you are, what you do in our beautiful and interesting complex field of social work.
Definitely beautiful and interesting for sure. My name is Alexis De La Cruz. Married name Alexis De La Cruz-Goodwin. So a lot of things going on. I am a district school social worker in South Carolina. I'm actually originally from New York, though. Shout out to
Okay.
Queens.
Hey, Queens in the house, my second
What's
favorite
up?
borough.
Okay. I recently got my MSW in 2021 from Fordham University. So BX, what's up? I got a little bit of everything in me. And I've been in South Carolina, I want to say about 4 years now, officially. Um, and yeah, social work is a beautiful thing, but very, very, very different. And just the complexity of how it's different from each state, sometimes even to different counties, is something I've really had to learn so far in my social work journey, and something I'm really appreciative of because we don't fit into one box. We are
Right.
so versatile and we are so diverse in what we offer and what we do. And so that's really helped me to kind of grow. But definitely a lot of things, going on, and I wish we could change. So I'm excited to talk about it tonight.
Yo, so what part of South Carolina?
It's the southern part, so closer to the Georgia border, a more rural area. So,
Okay.
the district I work in, have about 2,700 students, so smaller, compared to most. But our district is a very wide, and our students have very high needs, and so
I'm sure.
we really struggle with, providing equitable services to our students, in a timely manner.
Yeah, and I'm sure a global pandemic only made things worse in terms of that.
Oh, for sure. Actually started after the pandemic kind of calmed down in the district. And so social workers are still fairly new, surprisingly. And so, yeah, it definitely has been different, adjusting with attendance and virtual versus being in school, and, you know, social distancing, and, trying to figure out resources. And people's needs have changed tremendously over the past couple of years. And I think that's something, in our field, we had to realize, we have to be well equipped for stuff, because when people need it, they need it now.
Yeah.
And just being able to kind of gather some things together and really provide that for our families and our students is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where I'm in Delaware, like the last school district I worked at, I was struggling to find resources. Like I live in an up and coming section of Delaware that's like fast, like almost too fast of a growth that's happening. Like I don't think the town is fast enough reaching the demand of people, coming in. We got people coming in from Philly. You mentioned New York transplant myself, and more people coming down. Um, and they have to like literally expand roads just
Mhm.
because of all the traffic that's coming in. But with that being said, like when I needed to find services for families, and I got to look for either further south or all the way up north, and it wasn't anything really servicing our area on a consistent basis. And then working at the school district I'm at now, like I find more resources, and they're like you guys need to do a better job promoting your stuff because if we social workers or we're brand new coming into the field, or people, Delaware State, shout out to their state, like they have a MSW program and a couple other schools down here, and like we need to know where to refer clients for stuff, and it's not just like you got to go all the way up north towards Wilmington and toward Philly, or you got to go all the way south past like the Dover and going into the beach area with a lot of stuff. So it's like we need multiple resources in the area. So I'm sure you might have difficulty yourself. That kind of like triggered when you said that.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely something we definitely do struggle with. Some the closest hospital is just about 20, 30 minutes away, sometimes an hour, depending on where the family lives.
Mm.
And so it definitely is a struggle, for sure. And something I've noticed is that sometimes in smaller towns, it's really who you know. And so
Yes.
coming in as a fresh face, and I'm still getting to know people and stuff, sometimes those resources are slowed down a little bit because I'm not talking to the right people just because I don't
Mm.
know them.
Right.
And I wish it was more streamlined, like you said, just a way for us to kind of communicate more effectively. And I think that's the ambiguous thing about social workers is that we do so much, but then people don't know what exactly we do. And a lot of times we get CPS put on us or foster care and those
Yeah.
like big target words. um, and really it's like we actually do so much more. And so I think, just trying to break the stigma of that and trying to find your niche and, navigating through people's lives. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is consistency. A lot of people struggle with consistency, and ultimately affects our communities and the kids who need it the most. And it does them a great disservice when we're not able to consistently give them resources, show the same face, have the same person to talk to. And it still builds up those barriers to try to help them where help is needed.
Right. Of course. What are you seeing with the kids? Well, like, what are the biggest needs there, especially since we're getting towards, I guess, kind of the ending of the ending, but not so ending of the pandemic, or like this new territory we're in the pandemic where it's kind of safe, but it's really not yet. I guess whatever you call it.
I would say I think we really need to focus more on social emotional learning and trauma informed care. How we're presenting that in classrooms and on the bus, at lunch, in gym class. A lot of our kids experience a lot of grief, a lot of loss during the pandemic, whether that be of a physical family member, friends, but just the normality of going to school, of having three, sometimes two, 3 meals a day, seeing, people that love and care for them. And not to say that every child comes from a bad house or a bad
Mm-hmm.
situation or anything like that, but unfortunately, a lot of, kids, school is their safe place. That is their place where they come and they have people who they know care about them and want to succeed. And, in almost a week or two, their whole world's changed. And, it was stressful on teachers and staff and, other support people as well. And so I think our we really need to meet kids where they are, not just from an educational point, because there's a huge gap there, but just
Yeah.
from where they are emotionally and mentally. Like our kids have been transformed by TikTok, but are not able to process their own emotions. Like,
Yes.
and it's hard when they're self-diagnosing themselves off of what
Mhm.
some random person said, but in reality, like they're still trying to figure out themselves and be comfortable
Yeah.
with them. So that's really where I see our need being, is meeting the kids where they are emotionally.
No, I totally agree. And I don't know if disconnect is a word, but like yes, the kids are behind. They're a year, 2 years behind in terms of academics and stuff, but it can't be such like there's like a fine line. You can't focus totally on the academics, because yes, yeah, there's social emotional needs. A kid could just have a whole temper tantrum because it's time to go back to recess. It's like kind of go back to class, and it's like I don't want to like want to stay here and play. Like maybe that they don't get that at home, or just 1 or 2 minutes or extra of just running around. You kind of meet them halfway or compromise with the kids and just get them to go back. I don't know. It's just I hope something changes at school districts and the Department of Education, from the federal level all the way down to state, local level, like, kind of understand that and put some changes. And when new teacher orientation comes or teachers come back that first week before school start, there be a lot more training on trauma informed care and just social emotional needs. And I know that might suck for a teacher who's been teaching for like 30 something years and then like pu- pushing that retirement bell, but it is what it is. When we're in a totally different time, and kids are they're just emotionally not like when I was growing up as a kid. Like we could easily just I know for myself, like just ignore whatever, like some kid bothering for the most part, and the kids can't do that. They see, I've seen kindergartners, first graders throw chairs and flip
Mhm.
over tables just because a piece of paper of addition problems are on their desk as soon as they walk in the door, and it's like, what is this? And like, I'm not doing it. So it's just a lot to unpack.
Yeah, and I think that kind of just shows, uh, like educationally, I mean, from a systematic approach everywhere, but where we really have left that gap with providing those social emotional needs to our kids, and it just got larger.
Hmm.
And I do understand. I'm not a teacher, and I'm not a seasoned either, but it is hard to accept change. It is, when you've been doing something for X amount of time, this habit doing it, it may be effective, and
Hmm.
it's not to say that things are wrong. It's meeting our kids where they're at. And like you said, like we have kids who get frustrated about addition, but maybe, you think about it, that may have happened at 10 o'clock, but maybe, this morning when they woke up, they didn't eat breakfast. Maybe somebody yelled at them in the car, and then somebody yelled at them at school because, you ever heard the I ain't got a pencil poem?
No, I haven't.
And basically, it's a poem. I really highly suggest that. I like to keep it up in my office, and it's basically like, I had to wake up my baby sister, and I had to, make sure we didn't have any breakfast to eat, or as it goes through all these lists of things that the kids didn't have, and the teacher
Mm-hmm.
was yelling at them because they didn't have a pencil. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
little do you know, our kids walk in with so much stuff, and like they don't know how to process that. Some of them think it's normal. This is the way it's always been for my family. This is the way we've always have done this. I don't know what it's like to experience other things. Um, and so, especially being home for so long,
Right.
and parents and trying to teach their kids, and teachers trying to do virtually. I mean, I definitely, for teacher appreciation week, shout out to our teachers,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
they definitely do so much, and they definitely are underpaid. Um, I just think we need to learn how to work collaboratively together, because I'm not in the classroom every day. I meet with kids, and I, do interventions, and I'm all over the place. And from pre-K to 12th grade, I'm just like, I go from crying to boyfriends to girl drama. I'm just like, I'm trying to breathe and eat lunch. And so it's really hard. And I think once we learn how to, fill those gaps and work together and, get legislation involved, get, the system in place to really help these kids, because there's a few who will get through, but many who are struggling, it's not fair. It's not fair to them. I mean, we provide a free and public education. Like, I think it's time for us to really change the narrative and really change what the focus is, and that really should go back to the kids, not the test scores and all these qualifications, all these things that are nice and pretty, but if our kids are struggling
Mhm.
at the core, what does all that really mean?
Right. Even like here in Delaware, like they're doing the state testing now, and like they my both of my kids are going through the state testing. I told them like straight up like oh, good luck with your testing, but this testing does not define you how you are, how smart you are, how talented you are. It's just a test. Do your best you can.
Yeah.
That's it. Because we got millionaires and billionaires who were like average students. So it just takes one smart idea to change the world, and like it doesn't matter what grade you got,
Yeah.
if fifth, sixth, seventh grade on a freaking state test. So
Yeah.
just do your best.
And I think that it goes back to resilience and work ethic.
Hmm.
If we build true resilience in ourselves, I mean, even as individuals, into if you don't build that resilience into you at such an influential age, you struggle. And I think we see even in adulthood how many people struggle because they have been, defined by grades or tests or, trying to figure things out when they're really just struggling. And I think it's okay. I think, Mental Health Awareness Month, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to talk about your feelings. And, unfortunately, in Black and Brown communities, we shy
Hmm.
away from that so much. And, it's bad. And, you're going to get labeled and you're going to go in the crazy house. I've heard that so many times from kids,
Hmm.
even to this day. And I'm like, we're still struggling with this. And sometimes it is that test anxiety. You just need someone to help you learn how to deep breathe
Yeah.
and really just focus and process. And we're working to change the narrative for our kids and to really change the stigma and implement systems and legality in place to protect them. Ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to.
Right. Absolutely. That you mentioned the pre-K to 12. Like, what challenges are you seeing throughout the different grades? I'm sure that you see a whole gamut of stuff. You mentioned boyfriend, girlfriend stuff, and like now, like as of this recording, talks of Roe versus Wade, being overturned, and so that affects of like all females, but especially teens, having sex, and unwanted pregnancies is out there, and we need to protect our women with that, and our young girls with that, and even sex is such a still a taboo topic, in 2022, and that's not talked about enough in schools, and condom use and female condom use talk is like non-existent unless you like work in the HIV/AIDS type of program. So what exactly are you seeing?
So broad spectrum, yeah, definitely broad spectrum. Pre elementary kids, we have really actually really great counselors across our district, so they really hold it down for us. Our elementary kids, I will say, we have a lot of kids who are very fearful. Just fearful of the unknown, just because like going back to processing, their world is so different, especially like our kindergarten, first graders. This is their first time being in school,
Hmm.
and so a lot of them are behind it. They're afraid of, bad things happening. And, what if tomorrow the world changes and, that's really fearful for them. For our middle school kids, it's a whole gambit of stuff. it's from hormones to
Hmm.
puberty to really struggling academically and just trying to navigate through who they are and who they want to be and what they want to be and setting goals. And I see a lot of our high school kids being really defiant, just because there's been so much change. There's been so much going on with them that they're struggling. They're struggling to know what is common, what's consistent, what is our new normal. Is it going to change tomorrow, or the next week? And how do I protect? I feel like they're trying to protect themselves in the situation. um and so, but definitely Roe v. Wade, we do have a handful of girls, like my little pregnancy group I try to keep up with. And South Carolina is actually a non-educational sex education state, so we don't
Okay.
provide formal sex education. We more so do once a female is pregnant, we try to provide services and tell her don't do it again and that thing. And I think I really, 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 really wish we would change the narrative. I'm a mother myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I think after going through my own experience, there's a lot I didn't know about the female anatomy and the body. And there's so much that I wish that women are educated on. There's a huge, huge, huge childcare issue right now. Like, we have waiting lists for months of people who are pregnant or were pregnant who just there's no spots for them.
Wow.
And I think, if we really want to change if Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned, our young people need to be educated. They need to have more systems in place to support them. There needs to be more prenatal and postnatal mental health services, talking about, okay, childcare options and, what your rights are as a patient, as a female patient going through birth.
Mm-hmm.
um do you have a support system? Do you have a job? Like, there's all these things that are going into place, but I think we're missing the mark. And I understand this is a huge controversial topic, and I do believe that children are beautiful blessings, but look at our foster care system. Like, it's busting through the seams, and kids go missing, kids unfortunately die, kids get abused every single day in that system. And I think it's so unfair to look at this one particular topic of childbirth and having a child when there's all these things that go into it
Yeah.
and that have long lasting effects. And our young people are very uneducated on that. And it's tough because, you know, it I mean, you can't stop them. They're gonna make their choice regardless, but how
Yes.
do we support them? How do we provide what's needed? And we struggle. I really struggle with that personally.
Is there a way that you could like throw in some advice like on a down low for them, like this is what you without like try to get in trouble like since it's not the law.
This off the record. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I do tell them, do follow up with your doctor if you do, make safe choices. I try to provide them with as much resources as I can.
Hmm.
The biggest thing is, I want them to feel like they're supported. And especially when they're in that younger age, 14, 15, 16, 17, even 18, it's it's hard because a lot of parents struggle too, and I try to tell the girls, it's, this is your choice. Ultimately, you have choices, you have an option. If tomorrow you decide, hey, this is your time window now, like if you decide, hey, like I can't do this anymore, like this is not what I want, there are things in support for you for that. But it's tough because I think a lot of they're ill prepared. It's only we're like playing catch up. And I tried to tell them, I try to give them all the resources I can and normalize it. Like, hey, it's normal for you to feel this way. It's normal for you to have these thoughts. It's normal for you to, not want to do this, but this is the reality we're facing right now. And
Hmm.
so I'm going to do everything I can to support you. We're going to set some goals and we're going to do this, but you got to meet me halfway.
Yeah.
And so I do try to, slide some gems in there every now and then. And sometimes it might work, and sometimes you just kind of get what you get. But it's tough. I wish they knew more. I wish that there was more support, even for, especially for our young moms.
No, no, I totally agree. Just support, just in general. Like, you know, our kids or are struggling, or our families are struggling. You know, us as workers, you know, we're struggling. You know, we got our own lives and our own traumas that we faced the last couple of years, or even prior to the shutdown, and just social work could be just very taxing. We just on our bodies, on our minds. We trying to help people. Sometimes they don't want to help themselves, and we're doing all the work for them. Or the other times they would just say stuff, just experience so much trauma, and they share all that, and now like we got the weight of their trauma. And then we got our own lives to deal with. Like, whoa, I can't believe I just heard that or had to do this just of the situation, and it's just it's very 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 taxing. I don't know, mention offline how like physically and emotionally taxing, just working in the school this whole year. I work at three different schools this year, and it's just been taxing on my body, on my mind, and it's like, and to a point, it's like I think I'm one and done, like a 5-star basketball recruit in terms of working inside of schools. Like, if there's another district that's not working inside the school, that I could just do meetings or occasional counseling in a school, but all day, every day in a school, no, that's not for me.
Yeah, don't plan, because it will never your day will never go to plan. And yeah, that transference is real. It really is. And just sitting with that too. It's like sometimes we're the only safe place for our kiddos,
Hmm.
and it's tough because, or sometimes I have teachers and I'm like, you want to cry, but you cannot cry right now. I was like, we need to be strong together. We would cry after, we could debrief, we could throw paint, whatever you need to do. But and that's hard, like trying to be strong for these kids, and they just
Yeah,
reach their point where they're like, I can't do this no more. I've been holding this in for so long, or I've been struggling with this and I don't know what to do. And sometimes I think that's another thing. Social workers, we don't have all the answers.
yeah,
We're not like waving a magic wand and curing cancer in the whole
and
world. And I'm
and I
just
think part of the schools, at least from my experience, like the schools have an expectation that they see my letters after my name is like, what's the answer? I'm like, Sway, you ain't got the answers. Like,
what do
I
you
don't
think
have
the answer is? Could you tell
I
me?
don't
Because
have the
I'm
answer.
here.
So like, this is my first full year working in the school. Like, never done this before. I don't got the answers. I don't. I'm trying to get answers from you guys, see what you do, and see maybe we could try something else. But I don't have the answer.
Yeah, it's tough, and I really appreciate my supervisor. I have a clinical super LICSW. She's gonna probably get mad. I messed up all her letters, but my clinical supervisor. She's awesome. She has a lot of experience in the schools, but like I said, each district is unique.
Hmm.
Each county is different. State is different. Each child has their own need. And I think that's the thing about when we're providing services, it's to know that we have these tools in our toolbox. I tell all my kids, you got a tool belt. I'm gonna give you, these are your tools. But we got to cater it to each individual person.
Hmm.
And we got to cater it to their needs, and all the things that we learn in school, and all this, all the things that our district has for policies and social work, our ethics, and all these things we have. I mean, obviously stay true to your ethics, but
Yes, yes, of course.
it's just like we have to take all these things in consideration when we are preparing for the needs of our children. And how do I reach and help the child be effective? And the hardest thing, I think, is that we don't always see the result right now.
Hmm.
It may be 20, 50,
Yeah.
30 years down the line, and we may never see it.
Hmm.
And I think that's been a really hard pill for me to swallow. Like, I'm
Hmm.
putting all this work, all this energy, my money, like I'm buying kids stuff, uniforms and
Hmm.
cupcakes, and school supplies, and it's like, and they may walk away, or I may never see them again because they
Mm-hmm.
move, or and it's hard, and it's like, am I really making an impact? Am I really
Yeah.
working? And sometimes I come home and I'm just defeated. I've had a really hard day. We've had a couple, like, there's be days we've had a couple crises. I got to take kids to the hospital and calling parents, and kids are in psych wards, and you know rehab centers and all these things, and I got to go back to work tomorrow and do it again, and it's
Mm-hmm.
tough. And you got parents calling you, community members, staff, district personnel, like, hey, what's going on with this, and this, and you're just like, can I eat my lunch?
Exactly.
So, but it definitely is a blessing. Like, I love coming to work every day. I love doing what I do, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I really wouldn't. My undergrad was actually in business administration, and I've worked a lot in the nonprofit sector for some time. And when it was time for me to go back to school for social work, it was tough. And I was like, I got to start all over again. And this is
Mm-hmm.
hard. And I struggled, and life happened, and a pandemic. And it,
Yes.
it really threw me off. But I would not take, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go back to that. I wouldn't do it because my heart is here, and teachers don't get paid enough. We don't get paid enough, and it's tough. But every day I'm thinking, if it's one kid one day, maybe one day I'll hear something, and it's gonna be that one kid, and you save lives ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I think of. We are really saving these kids' lives, and that's what motivates me every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned rehabs and stuff. What, like, I know we have the opioid crisis going on, and that was full speed prior to COVID, and shut down, and that hasn't stopped. During the pandemic, and people not having able to go 12-step meetings in person, and I did a whole episode about that. Like, what are you seeing in terms of substance use in the county where you're working at?
So a lot of marijuana used, but they got very creative. Kids find all types of ways, and vaping is really huge too.
Mm,
We've recently learned how to curb that with different protocols the school has put in place. I think that has been working pretty well. But I mean, they're still doing it at home and on their free time and on the weekends. And so, you know, just because you just never know what you're gonna get. And that's what I stress to all my kids. You don't know what you're putting in your body. And I don't care if it's a gummy, I don't care if it's a drink, I don't care whatever it is. I don't care if, the person you love and care about gave it to you,
mm-hmm.
or some random person off the street. Either way, it should still be no.
Yeah.
And we have some instances where kids are having bad reactions,
Mm-hmm.
and or some kids, they're so dependent on it they can't function without it. And that's a lot of them, that's their way of coping and escaping.
Yeah.
And it's trying to train them, retrain them, and kind of configure their mind to, hey, there's other things you can do to cope with life. There's other things you can do to deal with stress. There's, to help you focus. Um, but like I said, when that's been their norm for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what's like easy and accessible whenever they need it or want it, it's really hard to combat that. But yeah, it's huge, and I wish we were paying more attention to the opioid crisis, because it's something that has affected us for such a long time, and people just continue to kind of like push it away until it comes up a little bit, and then it's like, all right, well, we're going to focus on something else. But it's tough, and it's really tough. I think we need to put more focus on our young people, and educating them on things that are going into their bodies and their choices.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen the commercials regarding vaping and stuff. With educating my son, that he's going through. Just they talking about it in class, like his health class, and explaining to him, like, the country just puts millions of dollars into doing these commercials and educating kids your age, because it starts at your age, or it starts a little younger. So you just you're not gonna escape this, and so you might as well learn about this. You ask me questions, and I'm here to answer whatever questions. I'll be comfortable asking, the type of questions, and try to learn from him too, because like you mentioned, the kids know all these names, and well, I know I might know a drug by one name, and these kids remix it and call it something else, and it'll be the same thing. And like myself, to be educated, and like I need to know these names, and know, like, if I gotta know, like, the weight of, like, a bag of weed and how much it costs, just to know that, like, I've had a couple experiences with adults that, like, had did a home visit and almost sat on, like, a $50 bag of weed right on the couch, and it's like, you got a $50 bag, like, and my cousin's like, how you know it called? What you know about that? I'm like, because I need to know. I'm a social worker. I need to know about these things.
We need to stay up to date. Okay, we need to know what is what, because the way things slang and whatever they call stuff nowadays, a pen is no longer a pen anymore. So it's just that thing. But I think something you touched on was parenting, and I think also that's another thing too, like meeting the parents where they are. And I think some parents are doing the
And that's
best they
hard.
can.
That's
It
really hard.
it's hard as a parent, and then it's hard to watch. I think it's hard to watch parents, like their parents are parenting with the tools that they know how to parent the best way they know possible. And it's going to look different for each person culturally, for each
Mhm.
person's bringing up, and each person's personal standards. And it's hard because you have parents who are doing the best they can, and in some people's eyes it's still not enough.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, your kid's still bad and your kid's still acting out, and it's like, but they're trying. And I see a lot of parents who are defeated, and I think that's something that we kind of look over too, is like parents have needs also. They want help too, they want answers, they want their voice to be heard just as much as the kids. And I think most parents do love their kids. Sometimes we're humans, we make bad decisions. We
Mhm.
say mean things, and we do things we regret or we shouldn't do, but that shouldn't have to dictate or put a label on people. And especially when it comes to parenting, is hard enough.
Yes.
Like, it's hard enough when you, from the time they're born to the time they leave your house, it is difficult. And it's just all when we just constantly require more of them and
Mhm.
not ask and not meet them where they are, it turns them away. And I think that's like old school. Like old school parents were so involved. PTO,
Mhm.
PTA, it was huge, and
Yeah.
I was like, we can't even do cupcakes for nobody's birthday. Like, it's just we're in a whole different world. And I just really think it's because we've shifted, the collaboration part with our parents and helping them in parent universities and education classes and meetings to hear their voice and their needs, and acting on them. Um, School has become really political. It has become
Yes.
very political, and
That's something I've learned.
across
I'm
the
sorry.
nation, it's everything is political. And our kids just want a safe place. Our parents want their kids to be educated. They want them to be the best that they can be, and it's tough. It really is.
Yeah, that's something like I mentioned. Just school districts, and just working and just being like so political. You see that outside aspect, from the district, and they got to meet their needs of, like, their constituents, and it's like a trickle down effect all to us, and it's like, it's not social work. How's that? What you ask me to do is gonna benefit, like, the kiddos and their families, and their social emotional needs, and like, you do it to do it because it's part of the job, but it's like we're not meeting the kids where they at, and it's not. Or I see a lot of kids that they do something, like, to, putting themselves at risk, like physical harm, and they're putting staff in harm, and then they come to school the next day, like, there's no I don't see any consequences either, like, or have you seen that, like, notice that in your school district?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we struggle with that, keeping consistency with consequences. and it's tough. And I think our unfortunately our kids get kind of lost a lot, because we're in a rural area. We have a lot of kids who don't come to school because of transportation, or because they just don't come to school. Parents think they're coming to school, but they're not coming to school. um, and we've had a lot of turnover. So the keeping up process, and before it was like, oh, I know you, and I've had your brother, and oh, you've been missing, and or you haven't come to my class. It that has really missed. We've really missed that, and so our kids ultimately, like, they don't get an education, but we're missing out on so much more for them, and it's tough. It is. um and I think, as social workers, we're always going against the grain, like you said. We have all these things, but it's like, but I got my own job. I got my own ethics. I got to hold
Yeah.
up the standard I'm supposed to live by. And it's constantly like fighting against that grain of like, hey, what about this? Or hey, have you thought about this kid? Or what about this situation? Um, and, sometimes it comes off as like combative, but we're really just trying to show a different perspective, to meet them where they're at, to advocate for them the best way we know possible. And I wish I just had a magic wand, and I wish the MSW means like working to save everyone or something. I don't know, but it's tough. It's definitely tough.
Yeah, I've had kids come in. They literally tore up a whole office and you know, kicking, punching, like spitting, like on staff. And like, I've been kicked, punched, and spat at, and kid completely wilding out, and get to come to school the next day like nothing happened. I was like, really, really could come to school like no consequences, like nothing. It was like this is great. I never seen anything like that before. It was just
Yeah. I mean, and we have school resource officers in our school, which is a sensitive topic to many people, including myself. um, but even things like that too. We do have kids who do act that way, and now they end up with criminal charges.
mm,
Or they, for simple, and this is where like the defiance comes in a lot. I see in our high school kids is that simple acts of disobedience become now, could, if escalated, usually escalated, become a threat to other students, and a major disruption, and that causes kids to really act out even more,
mm,
because they feel like, one, they're not being heard, they're not being understood, and now some this authoritative figure, which most of our kids don't have a positive relationship with,
mm,
is now telling them, reading their Miranda rights.
mm,
And that is very disheartening, to me, because yeah, we do have kids who act out, don't get me wrong, and maybe they do need a couple days home to cool down, or or we got kids who act out and come back to school the next day too, like you said.
mm, mm,
But I think when it gets to the point where skipping class becomes a crime, or having your cell phone out, or just little things, it's really tough. And I think that's, administrators are trying to find that balance. I think staff is trying to find that balance, and the kids are trying to find that balance. And even some, as our school resource officers, some of them are trying to find that balance.
yeah,
And I, it's just, it gets kind of messy, and it gets very gray. And I feel like it should be more black and white, when it comes to disciplining our kids appropriately. And um, unfortunately, it just kind of depends on the kid. I
yeah,
think that's what it comes down to. I've seen a group of kids argue and yell at teachers and stuff and not get any discipline. I've had kids who, just fought each other in the bathroom just because, and
mm,
now they got all this stuff going on, and it's it's tough. It's tough, and I I don't have an answer. I wish I did.
yeah,
I wish I did, but I don't.
yeah. It's just a lot, and that's what I was saying earlier, like the very beginning. I hope like there's lessons learned, and I know America does a terrible job of learning from their mistakes. It's just that's just the American way. We just continue to do the same mistakes until something really crazy happens, like a war, and we get attacked, and then oh yeah, we should have. Then you look back, oh, we should have did this and did this and did this, but so I hope can learn from this and going next year could really help these kids and the staff too, because staff no reason for like everyday staff member teachers and stuff get hit, being kicked and punched, and now we got you got to deal with unions and all this stuff, and that's that fine balance too. Is like I'm not gonna take this much longer. A whole year. It's like Groundhog Day, like the movies, like do the same thing every day. Like you're gonna get tired of doing the same thing every day. It's just human nature, of that. So
Yeah.
that's why I tell certain staff like it's like see the same kid doing the same behavior like every day during lunch, and it's like we live in like the same day. I got
Yeah.
different different clothes on, but I'm doing the exact same thing. And it's like, you ain't tired of doing this and seeing this, like
Yeah. And I think that's where proper intervention comes into place, like going back to like STL and, knowing, MTSS, SIT processes, RTI, I think some states use that. And, some kids are, do need 504 plans, or they're under IDA, or, they do need some special ed services. And I think we have a lot of kids who are missing that because of their discipline. And that's a huge thing too. We have a lot of kids with the same discipline problems, but no interventions have been addressed.
mm-hmm.
No support has been provided, but it's the same behavior over and over and over again. And that is a huge indicator of some emotion, like ED or behavioral stuff. And sometimes that's cognitive. Our kids, that's how they show their emotion. Not saying it's great, but again, meeting the kids where they are. And I think really having those formal systems in place, and having staff informed to ask, hey, this behavior has been happening every day at lunch. We've had the principal talk to him, I've talked to him or her, and all of these things, and nothing's worked.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to sit down and start our process. Let's start the kid off. Like, we need to find somebody that they trust in the building, that they
Yeah.
could talk to, and that they could confide in. Do that. Maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's a social worker, maybe it's mental health services in the community, and go through that. And it's going to take some time and some data to be collected, but
Mm-hmm.
then we'll be able to identify, okay, well, during lunch, there's actually a kid that he don't like, that's been bothering him for the past 3 years in math class, because he needs help in math.
Mm-hmm.
So every day at lunch he picks on him about his math problems. And it's complex, but it's simple at the same time.
Yeah.
It takes asking the right questions at the right time and observing. But our teachers, like our staff, they're burnt out. They're
Yeah.
they're not
Beyond burnt
thinking.
out.
Yeah, we're all we all are.
It's beyond
It
burnt out.
got to be more than just a handful of us asking those questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, when we hopefully starting back, there'll be an overhaul and a change that's gonna come and really reevaluate our mindset and shift the way we think about our kids and meeting them. Not, instead of asking what's wrong with you, what happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
My supervisor says that all the time in her trauma trainings. Don't ask the kids what's wrong with you. Ask them, in the question in your head when this is happening, what happened to you? Why are you feeling this way? What is making you think like this or act like this? This is usually a response of something else, of trauma, of pain, of lack of support, whatever the case may be. And how do we help you get to where you need to go? Because this is a hindrance to you
Mm-hmm.
with long-term effects.
Yeah. I like that. I think I might try to use that because it's just so natural. Be like, see somebody under distress, like, what's wrong? instead of like instead of be like, what happened to you? But I could totally see my kiddos be like, nothing happened to me, but
Yeah.
and
Mine
just
too, they'd be like, I'm fine. Just
exactly, I'm
another
fine.
day.
And it's like, I see your face, like you look like you're upset. And we talk and just silence, and like I'm comfortable with the silence for a little bit, but like you gotta say something. Like I'm here to help you. Like try to get. We want to write. I can put some music on. I like. You want to color, like you want to just draw a face, like draw how you feel, like, or you like to write while you feel. Just come. And our kids is just like nothing. I try like I use all my tools in my toolbox. I got nothing. We gonna sit there. We gonna sit here, or we gonna go, or you gonna go back to class. Like
Yeah,
you, you're missing that instruction that you need. Like this is
yeah,
what you
and
want.
it's
What you
definitely
want to do? Come on.
right. You got, and sometimes they're not ready,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll try again tomorrow. But this time it's on a 5 minute limit.
Yeah, like I said, it's been one hell of a school year. And it's a lot. For me, I've seen the kindergartners, first graders, and fourth. Like I spend more time with the fourth graders and those grades. I'm sure second and third also for me struggle too, but I spend so much more time with the kindergartners, first and fourth graders that they're struggling, and our fourth graders they're just not ready for middle school like whatsoever. And I know the school district is eventually going to change so that middle school starts in sixth grade, not fifth grade. That's a couple years down the line, but like these fourth graders, I try to do like a impromptu group with with a class, and they're like, "Who's ready for middle school?" And they change the subject real quick. It's like we're not talking about middle school, like but y'all about to graduate in like a month, so we need to start having process these feelings or some of this anxiety about middle school because unfortunately the expectation is like they want you to somehow be ready, and we need to at least start thinking about what middle school is going to look like, and some of y'all are going to be in the same middle school, so at least that's a plus, and understand that's a positive going forward into like a brand new school. But I need to get it together. But my schools they're not ready. poor, poor things, poor babies.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Yeah.
And I
It's
think that goes by like just systemic and just the nature of the towns. I just see this pandemic is really like hit hard, and these kids are just unfortunately, as they say, lost in the sauce.
yeah,
But
definitely lost in the sauce. Definitely that. And it's true. Our A lot of anxiety, a huge shift in anxiety, and depression. And I just, like I said, I just like normalizing it for my kids, because it's been so taboo for so long.
mm,
And a lot of our kids, they, like I said earlier on TikTok, they thinking they know what I got, imposter syndrome. You can't even spell imposter. Imposter. I'm like, what are you talking about? So it's tough, but
oh man,
yeah,
don't even get me started on the spelling. It's not even funny. It's like it shows how Zoom really didn't work. Um, and like these kids definitely need to be in the classroom. It's great, and I'm glad we have that technology. Like if we like here in here in Delaware, they'll have a 2 hour delay because of fog. And like the first time I experienced that, and like coming from New York, I was like, did I close the
well,
school for 2 hours for fog? Like,
I was up to here and I'm only but this tall. Y'all don't know what it's really like. Okay, because I was out there in that snow, in the sleet, and all that. We was outside. Okay, we
I was
was
still going to school through the few tropical storms we had in New York, like coming this way,
yes,
like so, like talking about fog, it's crazy.
yeah, it's a different. New York's are a different breed now. They be talking trash about us. We are a different breed of people. So
Yes.
yeah, and yeah, that's a really unique perspective I didn't think about. How Zoom really did take away some of those fundamental things, like you know, reading and writing,
Mm.
that are literally to the core of education.
And everything's
Was
on the
like
damn
that.
iPad.
Yeah,
Everything, and it's like their math, their writing stuff is like you need to learn how to grab a pencil and just write. And so I don't blame a kid to actually see a piece of paper. They probably have not seen a schoolwork on a piece of paper in like 2 years. I'm like, what is this? And
yeah. This
it's
is
like,
prehistoric. They don't know what a chalkboard is anymore.
oh,
So
everything's a smart board, which are cool. And like, I don't want to be touching $3,000 equipment. Like, y'all let y'all rock. I got asked today, like, you know how to use a smart board? Like, nope, I'm
mm-mm.
not touching it either because I'll break it real quick.
Right.
But yeah, it's those little things like that. Like, uh, it compounds to learning and try to learn a different way. What exactly is that new norm? And we probably not gonna know to who knows. So I
Mhm.
think, and I think the school districts throughout the country, like I knew for myself, well, okay, I'm going to work in a school this year. I know it's going to be hectic, but I don't think nobody expected how hectic it actually was going to be this year, and it kind of took everybody, aback and to a point where we all just like counting down the days to the end of the school year. It's like normally from my teacher friends they count down, but I think this year is like everybody's on empty or like beyond empty on the gas tank, and it's just surviving, just trying to make it through another day of being in the school.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So how is it a girl from Queens working in South Carolina in a rural part?
Man, it's
What part of Queens?
so see, I moved around a lot. So I got Far Rockaway in me. That's
Oh
my
man,
South.
that's a huge culture shock from Far Rock to rural. Oh man.
I lived in Regal Park for a little bit, Whitestone for a little bit. But I finished out more of my high school years on Long Island, so got a little bit of a range in me, you know. But yeah, I'm a city girl. I'm through and through. I am like, I don't know how I ended up here, to be honest. I got my undergrad down here, and after that, I kind of, instead of going back and forth, I just decided to stay. But Fordham was calling me for my MSW, so I was like, I had to do it with a bang. So, I just, yeah, I'm down here. It's a huge culture shock. I'm not even gonna lie. Also being a Latina, my perspective of Hispanics has changed so much because I am more Caribbean Hispanic, and we have a lot of South Americans, uh, Hispanics here.
Mm,
And from the words that they say to their
yes.
culture, the food is completely different. And I
Mm,
think that's something we have as a huge need also, down here, is that we have a lot of cultural shocks and differences for those kids.
mm,
And our ESOL kids are all over the place. Like, we have kids 18 years old starting at the ninth grade because we don't have any education on them.
mm.
And it's coming into a new world. And I think people who have been down here and aren't used to that, they don't know what to do. Um, and so it's, everybody thinks like Tex-Mex is Hispanic food. And I'm like, yeah, I got any race, like, so arroz con gandules, like some pernil, because I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely different. And I struggle with that personally, just
Me too.
staying true to who I am and living in the South and eating collard greens and macaroni and cheese. And I'm just like, this is what it is now. I'm gonna just have, I don't make it like my grandma, so I'm gonna have to mix up some rice and beans up in here. But it's definitely an adjustment. And like I said, people who aren't used to that side of our culture, it's odd. They're like, so what are you? Where are you from? I get a lot of times, are you black and white? Nope, I am Dominican, Peruvian, Puerto Rican, and Italian. I mean, I'm a lot in myself, but I'm just like,
Mm,
there's a lot of people like me in New York. I promise.
yes,
I
yes.
promise there's a lot of us.
I'm surprised I have not got gotten that. They could tell right away that I'm Latino, but like I got asked, so what exactly are you, or like those type of annoying, frustrating questions that we tend to get when you're like in the suburbs. Like that hasn't really happened yet, but just the culture shock, being from the Bronx, coming down here, and just farmland. Go like do home visits in the projects, and like you like go to somebody's house and just driving around farms and seeing a lot of
Yeah.
cattle and seeing like horses and seeing some goats, and it's just different in finding food that, especially once I moved my dad down here with me, it was definitely like, so where's the supermarket? The supermarket don't have like batata and like
Yeah.
yuca and stuff like where you gotta go for that? And it's like I literally have to like drive a half hour just to try to find some food. And I'm still discovering, trying to find places to go just to find some cultural
Yeah.
food and stuff. So, and you mentioned like a lot. They're on like kind of like on the down low, but there's a lot of Guatemalans where I'm from. There's definitely some Mexicans. Like if you see like Puerto Ricans, they're on the kind of a little down low too. Like you could just tell, like they'll have their flag like
Yeah.
in New York on the car, like the inside of the windshield, like they'll have their flags out.
Stop, that's me though, because I got all my flags. I rep it every day.
But besides that, like you just is there's some kids that just I was like they stick out. Like I know for sure you're Latina from somewhere, but it's kind of like blend, like kind of blend in, and you would like nah. Unless you ask them straight up, you just won't know like what they are. So it's definitely different. Some definitely compared to like New York is a complete different. And when when I get married next month, my friends coming down from New York, like they gonna
Congratulations.
hit with the ultimate culture shock. Like what you live like in the boondocks? Okay, okay, was this was this all this farmland and stuff, and all this like new construction and housing going on. So like I'm gonna be shook like, you get out of New York and come down here. Like ain't nothing in New York anymore.
And that's you know what I still can't find empanada. I cannot find them anywhere. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm just in a dry land. Like I cannot find them. So when you said the thing about the food, that's the soft spot in my heart because I can't make empanadas. I still can't find bacalao. Like I'm like, what do you guys want me to do? And even like things like pernil is like $20 for the
Mm.
pernil, and I'm like, it's $8 at Key Food. How many gotta ship me some? So, but yeah, I think culturally that too. Like some of our home visits are like an hour away from
Mm.
the school, and that's I think about that. Like our kids travel so far, and I'm like,
Mm.
I used to walk to school every day. Like it was
Yeah.
nothing, and it's like walk. Why would you walk? I was like, cause it was down the block. Like it wasn't that far. You know what I mean? And even if it was a couple of blocks, or you had to take a bus or a train or whatever the case may be,
Mm.
like that was nothing. But and that goes back to like our resources, like we were talking about before. Some people they have to travel far to go to a grocery store, to go to the doctor, and
Mm.
that's been huge for me because I'm like, I'm not driving more than 20 minutes. Like at that point, you might as well put me on the flight and put me somewhere else. Because I'm like, that's just too much. But culturally, I mean, that's what people are used to, and they make do with what they got and live off the land as much as possible, and which is dope. I mean, that's cool. I didn't have a little garden growing up, so I think that's awesome. But like, it's it's like everything closed at 7 o'clock. What do you guys do after this? Like, so just adjusting is. I feel like it's forever gonna be an adjustment. And every time I mean, the weather is beautiful. I'm not dealing with snow. Well, not right now. I ain't dealing with snow, but it's hot. It's like 90 degrees all this week, and it's tough. But yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing though. I love, but time out though, because everybody's from New York now. Every time they be like, "Where you from?" Like, "Yeah, I'm from New York." "Oh, me too. I moved down here when I was 6." I'm gonna give you like a a 10-year gap. If you have not visited, if you've like moved maybe in the past 10 years, but you haven't visited in the last 5, you are now a resident of here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna need y'all to slow down a little bit and let's
It's
back
not
it
the
up.
same. That's like you talking like Bloomberg administration. Like if you if you didn't live the freaking De Blasio years, you're not.
You're not from New York. You can't claim it. You can't claim it. So yeah, it's definitely it's definitely different. They were still one time when you could still drive through Times Square. They wasn't there where you could walk through it. So that's how
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, it's definitely different. And so I love, bringing that a new and a fresh perspective on things. And I think that's what we need. We need people with different life experiences to be like, hey, you know, other people are doing this differently. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about it. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that university that I'm not going to name. Like, tell me your tell me your your experience.
At Fordham, you got
Yeah.
some hate going on for the rest.
Man, they owe me money.
Um, they owe me some stuff too, too now. Fordham. So yeah, I actually did Fordham's online program before online was cool. And I will say, you it's money. You
Yes.
invested a lot.
Yes.
And but Fordham has a huge network, I have seen, of
Hmm.
alumni and social workers that and bring a lot of experience that I really am appreciative for. Um, it wasn't easy now. I had to learn how to really advocate for myself more than what they was teaching us in class. And
Hmm.
um, it was a hard time. My cohort we struggled a lot. A lot of us, this was new to us. We were trying to figure out where we were. We were all across the country. Some people in different parts of the world. It was different.
Hmm.
But I loved the flexibility. I think that's something I that now is more so of a common option, but wasn't at the time. And having the ability to work during the day and take classes at night was amazing. On the weekend, that really helped me out financially, because the more traditional one settings I was looking into, I was gonna be out of work for like 3 4 days a week. That was before internship, before I was
Oh
doing my
wow.
field work. And I was like, I don't know, I don't know if I could do this. And
Right.
somehow they thought my essay was fantastic, and they thought I was good enough to get in. So I just kind of went with my gut, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. And what it really wasn't until the world shut down where I was just like, wow, I'm so grateful, because I have other friends and stuff who were like, I don't know how to do virtual. Like our school, they don't know what to do, and everything's all crazy. And I'm just like, girl, just log on. Like, and I had a year or two under my belt by that point. I was like, it's not that bad. But it definitely has taught me to be flexible, to really help me to be tech savvy, and show with the older generation of social workers, like, we got a new age coming, and you guys need to we kind of need to step up our game. We need to be like aesthetically pleasing, you know what I mean? We need to
Mhm.
capture, it's like marketing, we're capturing an audience,
Right.
and we trying to get people to understand what we do and sell them on it, because they need us. They know they need us, but they don't know what to do with us.
Right.
um Now, ain't no school perfect though. So, like I said, definitely had its struggles. But I will say, for the most part, my professors were very flexible. They were very understanding. They treated us like adults. I never felt undermined, for the most part, and by my professors. But we did advocate. We asked for change, and hoping that we've had some more success stories since then. But it, it's it is what it is.
No, definitely it is what it is. No, with a pandemic, election that happened and everything that's continues to happen is like every day there's something going on, and we got possible rumblings of like World War III potentially. And then we got a Russia Ukraine situation, and that goes back to just these with our kids that we serve, and there's so much out there. Like growing up, something the internet didn't even exist yet. Like I'm 42. There was no internet until when by the time I got was able to maybe have some access, I was already like a senior in high school, even though internet was around before then. But for me, having possible access wasn't until like my senior year of high school, 96, 97. And now it's just you're on your phone, you're on these kids with tablets, they go on YouTube real quick, they Google, like they're just curious about anything, and images like Google first thing they got new stuff, and like and, access in their fingertips like crazy. So seeing war images, that's adding more trauma. Like having questions of like, is that gonna happen here? Like kids are learning about 9/11 in like textbooks or whatever they use to talk about nine
Yeah.
eleven. Like my daughter that actually was learning about 9/11 and like in school, and it's like, were
Wow.
you be like, were you alive in 9/11? Yes, I was alive. Number
That was
one.
that was not that long ago. That was not that
And
long.
like, where were you? Like, what happened? Like just having like giving my perspective of what happened. Like, actually, the significance of that. Like, yeah, like they'll teach you like what happened, what's the significance about that, and like remember like when we went to Toronto, we went to Canada, and like the stuff with TSA, all this stuff. Like I remember traveling, like this wasn't existence. This is 9/11 is after this because of we have to be at the airport 2 hours in early to check in, so stuff like that. Take off your shoes
And
and
don't go through JFK when they got the dogs out because you can't stand in line for 5 hours. 5 hours.
so it's like all of that. So like these kids just it's just technologies out there. Like you mentioned TikTok earlier, we just have a lot of drama with bullying and thanks to TikTok. Like it might start on TikTok and then continue on in the school, and then it goes back on
Mhm.
TikTok, and they want to do again these dances and all this stuff, and it's like none of that stuff was. So it's kind of like I'm in that being 42. Like I was like no internet to having all these choices, and there's new stuff out there, and like really like these kids like they'll educate you like real quick, and at a kindergartner he's like yeah, ever heard of Huggy Wubby or whatever that you ever you remember a couple years ago Momo?
Yeah.
So there's like a new character.
Oh my goodness.
It's called Huggy Wubby, and it's like creepy looking. He looked like that red monster that be on Looney Tunes is like that
Yeah.
water sneakers look exactly like that one, but it's just like scary looking.
Oh
It's
wow.
just like what is that? What possesses like these people that create these like characters and then just put it on YouTube, and it's like I remember when I first had my son, and like it was into Dora at the time, and like watching YouTube, and like had to like get rid of some of the videos because they'll like put in like the cursing, like dub the voices and put the cursing now. So now it's like 10 times worse, and it's like, what is all this stuff? Like we got to be like mindful of these kids, what exactly they're watching. Like everything is on the damn iPads and like use the computer and stuff. So it's like, which leads to like more, addiction with like technology. That's stuff that's been happening recently. So I think that's definitely going to need more of us social workers to learn about tech addiction and how to like deal with that. But everything is on the phone. We got to pay somebody. You got Cash App or Venmo? Like send money. Like mobile apps. Like everything's an app. Like you do a small business and you try to make some money. You gotta learn how to develop an app. So it's like we can't get rid of it, but it's affecting our kids.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. And um, yeah, I think that's all true. And it is information is so accessible, like you said, and even those historic events, things that we've experienced in our own lives, and now the kids are learning it as the past. It's like, hold up, I'm still here. I went through
Yeah.
that too. But yeah, it's tough. It's it's rough out in these streets, like they say, it's rough. Um,
Hmm.
but like I think it's important for us, for social workers, bring that, bring a new change to the generations, and you know kind of keep up with that. I mean, social workers, our field is growing immensely. Um, and, the ability of what you can do as a social worker now has changed. Well, a traditional social worker, like, and that's why there's that stigma with CPS and DSS,
Hmm.
all this stuff. And it's like, I mean, those are great entities. They're needed,
Yes.
they are needed for sure.
It's great. It's great experience.
Yeah.
You could do anything after that.
If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Okay.
Yes.
And so, like, definitely needed. But we got social workers in tech, we got social workers in schools, we got social workers in business, we got, you know, politics, all this stuff. And it's like, look how much we can do. Like
Hmm.
it's awesome. We really making change out here, and it's just about adapting a new way and ultimately creating change for people around us.
Now, like when you graduated at Fordham, were they still talking about like doing, I guess, to do like clinical work and do get your own private practice and stuff like that, or was like they talk about like business, like private practice stuff, or like you just mentioned, we could do so many things. What was there talk from professors or just institutions like you don't have to have like license? These are avenues where you can make money at. Was there talk about that at
Yeah.
Fordham?
Yeah, and we got a lot of option of classes. And so, some programs make you choose whether you're gonna go into clinical, or whether you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna go macro or micro, you know, meso. They got all the each program is different. And so Fordham, they didn't make you select a specific route to go. You could have a preference. And so my preference was actually macro. So I did a lot of macro classes. I did stuff in integrated behavioral health. I've done clinical, obviously research, fundraising. They provide a lot of options, and they gave us a lot of opportunity to learn about, what you can do in the social work field. And, I heard a lot of times, you say you're going to do this, but you're probably going to end up doing the opposite. And I was like, I don't know. But we had people who wanted to start up in clinical, was like, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
After field experience, or after learning about, like, what, that's really not what I thought. Or some people the other way, macro, was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. They were like, nope, I love clinical. And I'm somewhere in the middle. I do love working, like, with the kiddos and doing that, but I'm still a big picture person. I really do see myself doing macro practice, and really advocating for systemic changes, and really shedding light on a lot of the issues that we are experiencing in society. And I know that starts at the ground level, though.
Yeah.
It starts with getting your feet dirty and getting wet, and really, working with individuals, so that way when I get to that place and I'm advocating, I got these years and experience under my belt. I know what I'm talking about, because I
Mm-hmm.
did the work to get here. And so it's a slow and steady race to get there, but that's my hopes one day, is to really get into macro practice. But Fordham definitely opened my eyes to, there's a lot we can do. There's so much different avenues a social worker can do. And even by professors, you know, I've had professors who worked in at the UN, and professors who just taught, and professors who did research, and who had clinical practices, and it's really about your niche and where you're thriving, because ultimately, money's going to come wherever. But once you find out what you could thrive at and what you can do, then the opportunities are endless.
I'm glad that Fordham was able to do that, for you, because the field is changing. It's like you said, we in corporate, we in tech, and we don't need to get our license to get those type of jobs. Just have the experience, and I'm still learning about transferable skills in those type of roles, and it's something that I'm looking to try to get into, like, myself. So that's where I'm trying to head that direction. I might hit a couple more bumps till I get there, but I'm willing to do that for an end goal.
Yeah.
Where can people find you at?
So I actually just started a new Instagram page. It's at Cruz's Corner, CRUZCORNER_. And that's just something I'm kind of doing, just to uplift people. I'm trying to just share about, different experiences in my life, and share my faith, my motherhood experience, being a wife, being a social worker, all in one. And that's, just my way of kind of spreading love and light to everybody. I feel like, everybody's an influencer, but are we all really being influenced positively? So,
Mm,
I'm just kind of learning how to navigate through that. And, just it is what it is. I just want to be able to really just share positivity and my experiences to help other people.
yeah, that's beautiful. Definitely hope people check you out, and definitely need some positivity on these social channels. No, I appreciate you coming on. Pleasure connecting with you on the podcast. And if there's anything you need, by all means, like, hit me up.
I got you. Thank you.